Before we dive into today's episode on emotions and personality traits and how they contribute to us developing chronic pain, I want to remind you of my course called Emotionally Fit, which is on sale right now. Emotionally Fit is a program that helps you to heal or at least get significant relief to your chronic sensations and pains by teaching you how to address your emotions and fully process them so that they no longer block your energy and cause you pain. The program also goes deep into your personality traits such as people pleasing, perfectionism, conflict avoidance, pressuring yourself way too hard, and much more. And it shows you the connection between these personality traits and emotions such as fear, anger, shame, and anxiety, which are so commonly the causes for your chronic pain. Emotionally Fit gives you the exact 4-step framework that you need to start expressing your emotions in a healthy way, and it also teaches you how to work with these personality traits that often cause your low self-worth and lack of confidence, which in turn are responsible for your pain. If you sign up before Wednesday, November 6th at 11:59 p.m. Mountain Time, you will get 2 bonuses. The first one is 15% off the regular price, and the second one is a PDF and a video guide with 3 very simple nervous system practices that you can do whenever you feel anxious, overwhelmed, jittery, not like yourself. These practices will get you calm, present, and grounded in a matter of minutes. You don't have to use any code to get these bonuses. Your 15% off discount is applied already. The link to this course is added to the show notes, YouTube description, and you can also find it in my Instagram. If you already have the course, then I have added these practices, these 3 nervous system regulation practices to your course curriculum, so you can find them already now. Today's podcast is a replay of another podcast episode that was released earlier this year, and I hope you enjoy it. Hey everybody, how are you doing? This is Kirsten here. Thank you so much for joining me today for this new episode of A Better Way with Kirsten podcast. On this podcast, we're talking about chronic sensations in the body. They feel really intense. A lot of the times they feel very strong and very uncomfortable. But the truth is that most of the time, when you have these chronic sensations that haven't gone away in, let's say, 6 weeks or so, they keep coming back. They're still pretty intense. Nobody can figure out what they are about, why you're hurting so much. Well, if this is the case, a lot of the times the problem is actually in your brain and nervous system. Your brain is experiencing a lot of stress. Your nervous system is also under a lot of stress, and these things can cause physical sensations in the body. Of course, it is important that you get checked out, make sure that there's no structural issue or tissue damage. But if you have done that, and a lot of times the doctors or other medical professionals, they just don't know what to tell you because they can't find one specific cause that's doing all this, then there's a very good chance that these problems in your body are created by your brain and nervous system. In today's episode, we're going to talk about what kind of child you probably were so that now you have these chronic sensations, because there is a connection between these 2 things. If you are now an adult who's having chronic back pain or chronic neck pain or chronic IBS or chronic fatigue or chronic whatever, if you have these sensations of tingling and numbness and unexplained symptoms anywhere in the body, I've had them even like in my teeth and in my gums after, I know that there's nothing wrong with my teeth because I had just gotten everything done. So it was a mystery, like, what is this? But yes, literally, these pains can come up anywhere in the body. So if you have these problems, coming back to that, a lot of times you can go back to your childhood and take a look at what kind of child was I? Because that can give you a little bit of an idea why you're having these sensations and symptoms now. Okay, so let's dive into the first one here. And the first one is this. If you were a child who was a people pleaser, right? Then there's a higher chance that now you're dealing with chronic sensations in the body that are coming from your brain and nervous system. You are too stressed out because from very early on, you have been doing everything for other people, making sure that nobody is disappointed in you,
making sure that you do what your parents tell you, making sure that the authorities that you do what the authorities are telling you to do without arguing, without questioning. So if this is you, if that was you when you're little, then there's a good chance that these problems that you have right now, that you really intensely feel sometimes in your body, are coming from there. So this, of course, means that you were just afraid to disappoint other people. And most of the time it is your parents or people who were closest to you, and you wanted to earn their love or prove them that, yes, I am good enough. Therefore, I'm going to do whatever you want, right? Because as children, we are dependent on our parents, and we want to make sure that we are doing what they want. But later on, it can also be teachers, it can also be a lot of other people. And then when you're an adult, at this point, you might be trying to please people you don't even know who they are, right? Because you're just learned to do this. This is your habit. You're always like, okay, I'm going to do what this other person says. I'm going to make sure that she doesn't get hurt. I'm going to make sure that everybody else is happy except for myself. You put yourself last so that everybody else, including strangers, sometimes can be happy. And think about it. Was this the way you behaved when you were a child? For example, always kept quiet, right? Didn't want to talk about your problems, maybe. Or maybe you did talk about it, and then the response that you got was, you're making a too big deal out of this thing, shut up, or don't show your emotions, whatever. So you learn that, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore because some people might not like it, and that's going to cause a lot of problem at home. So i'm just not gonna I'm just not gonna talk about it then, because I want to make sure that other people are happy. It could be maybe in school or in some kind of hobby. Your parents wanted you to do this and you didn't, right? You absolutely didn't. It's like me and my piano lessons. I didn't want to do this, but my grandparents did and my mom did. And I was like, okay, I guess I have to do this then, without saying that I absolutely freaking hate this. I don't want to do this at all. But no, I was like, I have to, I have to, because other people told me that I have to, right? And so why is this creating chronic sensations? Well, lately I did a podcast on anger, right? If you want to go back to that one, that will show you what the problem is here. Because when you are doing these things, you're always following what other people are telling you and you ignore yourself, then this is in your body, you're going into conflict with yourself. And it's like there's a child in you who's like, I don't want to do this. And then there's other person in you who's like, but you have to because the society tells you. And there's a conflict there, right? And this conflict now starts coming out as chronic sensations because you probably are still doing this, right? All right. So the first point was people pleasing. This is number one. If you, as a child, if you're a people pleaser, it's a higher chance right now that you're dealing with chronic sensations. The second thing, if you avoided showing your emotions as a child, briefly touched on that too, but let's say that you expressed your emotions and then you heard that this is too much. Can't do this, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry, you can't be sad. A lot of boys, of course, have heard that you cannot cry. This is not being a man enough, right? Men don't cry. But also girls, the same thing. Don't show your emotion. I think a lot of women now have learned to just like put this mask on, right? I'm tough, I'm strong, I got no emotions. Just today, actually, I watched a little video clip about one um, Olympic athlete who actually made it to the U.S. Olympic team, and she placed second. So in these Olympic trials, you have to place in the first three to earn your position in the Olympics. So this is how you can go to Paris this year, 2024, if you're watching this in 2024. So, and then she said, I'm not an emotional person, but right now I feel like I could cry. And I think that's the thing. Like, we've been taught that don't be an emotional person, can't show your emotion. This is bad. This is bad. And then we learn to be tough. We tend to be very rigid. We hold these emotions in. And that's why we start to have chronic sensations. And that's why I've been talking so much about emotions, how important it is to release them, express them, show what's going on, and deal with your emotions. Maybe also when you were little, maybe it wasn't the case that you were told, don't cry, sadness is bad. Maybe nobody told you that, but maybe you saw that this could be harmful, right? In other words, nobody said it necessarily out loud, but you learn from observing what's happening around you, and you made the decision that showing a certain emotion is a bad thing. For example, if somebody was constantly angry, And then they just exploded, right? They shouted and screamed and maybe were abusive. Then you learned that this is a bad thing. I can't show my anger because this was the only way you saw anger is going to be expressed. And that wasn't pleasant, obviously. The other thing could be you saw maybe one of the family members being constantly sad, right? Something happened, maybe sad or depressed. And then you learned if I cause any trouble, including showing my emotions, then that might make my mom or dad or whoever was depressed even more depressed. And I don't want to contribute to this. This means trouble. I don't want to do this. So you just stop showing your emotions. Very, very common thing too. And bottled up emotions start causing chronic sensations in the body. All right. So the next one, which I think might talk to many of you, is if you were a child who always got the best grades in school, right? Have to get the straight A's in everything. Why is this causing chronic sensations? Because again, you very likely didn't want to push yourself so hard all the time in all of the subjects to get the best grades, or did you? I'm guessing that you didn't. And I know for me, this is absolutely true. I did not care for math or science. I just didn't, but I had to because the school curriculum said so, because the parents said so. I always heard how important education is. And I just forced myself to do it. I still remember how I was sitting after school, with one of my best friends, getting tutoring from her in math, like sitting hours and hours. I can literally right now even see it in my mind's eye when I think about it. I was sitting there trying to understand this freaking thing that I had zero interest in. Zero interest in. I did not want to do this. If it were up to me, what I would have wanted to do more of at school was more PE classes, anything except for skiing. I was like, let's go. I love it. Make me run, play volleyball, basketball, gymnastics. I just love this stuff. Let's go. The other thing, I wanted to learn more languages. I was in a very, very small town. I grew up in a very, very small town. We didn't have like a lot of languages, but I still learned like 3 in high school. So I was like, I want more of that. This is fun. I love this stuff. And I was good at this stuff and I really enjoyed it. But no, I had to deal with some things that I didn't want to do, like science and math, and I had no interest in it. I knew that the second I closed my high school, doors after graduation, I'm done. I'm never going to use these things anymore. But at that time, I had to push myself because I thought that if I don't get the best grades possible, then I'm bad, I'm a failure, I'm letting others down. And this was a no for me. No, I can't do this. So I absolutely forced myself, forced until I got at least like decent grades in those subjects that I didn't like at all. And now looking back, I can see how angry I was, but I didn't really express it because I thought that I have to push myself, that I have to. And right now I'm thinking how much better it would be if we could support the things that kids are actually interested in instead of forcing everybody follow the same curriculum, the same pattern, just because that takes away a kid's individuality, their own opportunity to express what they want to do, explore what their interests are. It just puts us on this straight path that everybody's supposed to follow. And what it creates is that in a lot of kids, it creates a lot of resistance. And that was me too. Like I said several times, I hated it, like capital H, hated it. And I still thought that I have to do this. Of course, now there's some other kids who are like, yeah, I hate that too. I'm not going to put all this effort into it. I'm just going to, get through it barely if needed. And I'm going to focus on things that I really like. And I wish I had had that attitude too, but this was not an option. For me, it was like, I have to get that good grade. And looking back, there's no other reason than just somebody else wanted me to get this good grade, right? I had zero interest in it. So this is to show you how, again, I created a lot of internal conflict, having to get those perfect grades, as perfect as possible. Internal conflict, because this is not what I truly wanted. And it's not that we only do it in childhood. We continue to do this into adulthood too, right? We do the things just because we were told to do a lot of times without questioning. Isn't that true? And I just want you to become more like, I'm going to start questioning this stuff. I'm going to start listening to my gut more. I'm going to stop asking like 7 million people what they think. And I'm going to do what feels right for me. And if I'm so afraid that I'm going to possibly make a mistake, well, so what? We're human. If we do make a mistake, that was a mistake. And then we learn from it and then we move on, right? So perfectionism again, right? Like I can't make mistakes. This is a big problem. This is why we have these chronic sensations. We have to get like a little bit more relaxed about things that we do and how we live our lives. Okay, and then I want to talk about one more thing that was common for you probably when you were a child, and if you now have these chronic sensations, is that you just felt a lot of shame about yourself, right? And this could look like in different ways. One of them is body language and posture and all that. So let's say that your posture was always poor. Shoulders were rolled forward. Maybe you're always looking down when talking to people. Had a hard time looking people in their eyes. For me, this was a problem even up until my early 30s. It was really hard. And before that, it was even harder. I just couldn't look people in their eyes. So poor posture, oftentimes feeling like it's safer to go and hide so that I don't have to be seen, right? Because what being seen might equal is judgment. And we're really afraid of that judgment. Oh no, what if I'm going to be judged by just because of like who I am? Because I feel deep inside that I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy and not valuable. So therefore this fear, like, okay, I have to go hide. I'm just so full of shame. And then as children, we didn't know that there's the word shame, like this is what's going on. But I think now as adults, we can understand that this is what it really is. We're just so ashamed of who we are that we just wanted to go hide, not be seen. And this is a big, big thing. Like shame is huge contributor to our chronic sensations, and how to work with shame if you have a lot of it in you. And I'm pretty sure that you do if you have these chronic sensations, how we can work with shame and reject it and teach our brains new patterns of thinking so that we can raise our self-worth, become more confident, and together with that, the symptoms also start to fade away. Okay, so these 4 things, let's go over them real quick again. So if you were a child who was people pleaser, didn't show his or her emotions, made a decision somewhere along the way that I'm not going to show them, got really excellent grades, in other words, were perfectionists, right? And then lastly, had a lot of shame that may have come out in body language, how we talked, how we interacted with other people, and so on. So if these 4 things described you when you were a child, then there are connections between those behaviors and the chronic sensations that you're having now. And it's important that we get to work on all these things, that we stop people pleasing everybody, that we start expressing our emotions. Go back to several episodes in this podcast, recent ones, and see, I talk about it a lot. And when it comes to grades, of course, we don't have to get good grades anymore, but we can let go of perfectionism. And in our minds, we can be like, okay, C+ or C effort is enough. I don't have to get like A+ all the time with everything in life. And then lastly, getting rid of that shame, building more confidence and self-trust, and the shame will start to leave and the sensations together with it.
Thank you so much for being here today. And once again, don't forget to check out my course, Emotionally Fit, if today's episode spoke to you. You will find all the tools that you need to start recognizing and expressing your emotions in a healthy way and moving closer to recovery from chronic sensations. Sign up before November 6th to get your 15% discount and 3 nervous system regulation practices. You don't have to use any code to get these bonuses. Your 15% discount is applied already.